Hey there, I'm Keith, and I am getting blasted by sunlight. My Pyxis 6K rental is coming to an end, sadly, so I have to send this camera back, but I wanted to make a quick video about like the 10 tips I have for using this camera to get the best shots. I wrote these down to keep track of them a little better, but the first one is choose the right base ISO. Don't deviate too much unless you're able to denoise heavily in post. I ran into a lot of issues with the 6K whenever I was using ISO to actually raise the ambient of my scene that I was trying to film. I actually had to compensate with shutter speed or just use fast lenses and just shoot them wide open to compensate in order to get like the right exposure. This camera does pretty well as long as you expose it correctly. I have a whole video going over this that I will leave linked in the description. It's a lot more in-depth than I'll get into right here. But the moral of the story, if you can avoid using ISO to raise the ambient and compensate for poor exposure, if you can, raising your lights or your shutter speed or your aperture on your lens will get you much better image quality than raising the ISO in a dark scene. Number 2 is use the Blackmagic monitor. The side screen is just okay. The Pyxis monitor is fantastic though. You don't have to buy the monitor with the Ursa handle and monitor mount bundle. I was renting the Pyxis, but I bought this monitor because I liked the idea of this so much. Being able to like hunt into the menus without needing to go to the side monitor was something that I was really interested in. And even buying this like totally made me want to use the Pyxis more. You can use the SDI in the back and run a SDI monitor to the front, but there is something awesome about just using one USB-C cable here and it locks in place and you can use this with power and video with one cable. So from a design standpoint, I love that you can use USB-C to get a good feed and be able to adjust all the settings on the monitor. I'm not a super big fan of the monitor design. I wish the bezels were smaller and the design was like maybe not as stylized. Like I could have lived without these like, the stylized bezels, like just make them thinner and like a box, like a small HD monitor with like a little bit of branding on the bottom. And I would have absolutely loved that. Again, that's like a super small detail. I'll still use the monitor obviously, but I think the design could be like less industrial design, more like functional design, if that makes any sense. Not getting bogged down by the design though, the standout feature of this monitor is being able to adjust any of your settings from this monitor or start and stop recording. Like I absolutely love that. If I want to like change the shutter speed, I can tap on shutter speed and then I can adjust it from the bottom here. I'm not like hunting through different menus, especially because there's not that many like custom keys on this camera, but I will touch on that again in a second. Before we get into the next tip, I'd like to thank today's video sponsor, Motion Array. Motion Array has a wide variety of high quality video templates, footage, photos, and more to use in your personal and commercial projects. Motion Array has a clean layout where you can browse thousands of music and sound effects for your videos. And if you find a track or sound effect you like, you can use the similar tracks feature to find the perfect asset. They have thousands of different assets and they break it down so it's easy to find exactly what you're looking for. Each asset comes with a step-by-step tutorial on how to use it. They have motion graphic overlays, loops, animations, transitions, and more to help add interest to your videos. They also have over 50 plugins to help you from color grading to keying, sharpening to stylizing. They're compatible with Premiere Pro, After Effects, Final Cut Pro, Motion, Vegas Pro, Resolve, and Avid Media Composer. Motion Array also has an automated tool to automatically clear copyright issues so you can remove the headache of copyright claims. If you'd like to try out Motion Array, you can sign up for a free plan to access a small amount of free assets, or you can sign up for a monthly or yearly plan to access their entire library for your personal and commercial projects. If you use the link in my description, you'll get 2 free months when you subscribe today. Thank you, Motion Array, for sponsoring this video. Number 3 was choose your recording modes carefully. Sensor readout speeds vary a lot on this camera. Again, I made a whole other video about this that I will leave linked in the description. But if you're shooting, 6K 16:9 to get the full sensor readout in 16:9. If you jump up to OpenGate, there will, you have more vertical resolution, but the sensor actually takes more time to read the whole vertical resolution. If you window down, you get better sensor readout speed, but you're windowing down the sensor, so now you're not shooting like with the full width or height of the sensor. Really, this is like, can get into the weeds really quickly. So just be sure to do the tests when you first get this camera, because after you do the tests once, you won't have to do them again. Number 4 was choose the right compressions. I found out that there's very little difference in controlled lighting between the most and least compressed formats. Since I'm not doing much color grading, if I have, controlled lighting like I'm right here, I can adjust all of these lights to be a certain level. So I don't really need to like adjust this light back here. You can't even see it. I don't need to adjust like this light in post because I can just do it now. In a controlled lighting environment, I don't find myself really like pushing and pulling and doing like all kinds of like crazy vignettes and stuff. In uncontrolled lighting though, that's when it really does matter. So I find myself shooting really compressed BRAW in studio controlled lighting environments. And then once I'm out in like more dynamic lighting, I find myself decreasing the compression to have more file size and more data to work with. But even that being said, BRAW is great to work with even at the most compressed file size. Number 5 is choose your storage carefully, because not all storage is created equally. Some of the CFast cards are fast enough to record. This may be more of a problem with the Pyxis 12K. Again, I'll do more testing when I get that in. But if you're using like a really slow CF Express type B card, you could struggle to have like, a very uncompressed BRAW in OpenGate with this camera, because those data rates are pretty crazy. You definitely need to pay attention to how fast your CF Express type B cards are. And another thing I wanted to talk about was using the SSD side caddy. I found myself actually, when I first got the camera and I didn't have any like really big CF Express type B cards, I found myself shooting on a tripod, and I just used the side caddy and a USB-C cable. And I was actually able to just put a big battery on here, press record, and then shoot like hour-long talking heads and not have to worry about the camera running out of card space or battery. If I'm putting this on a tripod and I need a lot of runtime, I'm just putting a big battery on it and using the SSD side caddy and just recording with USB-C. If I'm out hand holding the camera, or I know I can, get a talking head out of someone and like they're a pro and they'll just do it really quick, then I'll use the CF Express type B cards. Because I don't have a ton, I don't have like 2 terabyte CF Express type B cards right now. I have a 1 terabyte, and right now I can get like 2 hours out of it. So if I was filming like interviews all day, I probably would need more than 1 CF Express type B card. But if I'm on a tripod and I'm shooting long runtime things, that's where that SSD caddy comes in handy. It's really nice to have the versatility of that too, because I'm definitely not used to that in my other cameras. Number 6 is map your custom buttons, especially on the monitor and the EVF. I don't have the EVF. I will be getting it eventually with the 12K, but I absolutely love the on the back of the monitor, you have a few custom buttons. You only have 3. I would have loved a ton of them, like a small HD monitor with like the function buttons on the front, because they're easy to find. And right now I'm like, it took me a while to be like, okay, F1 is my false color. So I have to press F1, but if I'm not perfectly behind the camera, I'm like, which one's F1? I'm like toggling my LUT on and off with F2. So I would definitely configure your function keys and then get the reps in to know which function key does what. So you're not like, oh, I need to turn my false color on. Let me try, is it this button? Is it this button? Is it this button? And there's no like, on your keyboard, like if you want to find home row and you're touch typing, there's like a little bump on the keys. There's no bump on the keys back here. So you have to kind of figure out where to press, and it's definitely a learning curve. It is great that they're there, and I love that anytime I can have a custom function button, I absolutely love that. But I just wish there was like some kind of like a more tactile feel to that, or even better, if you have big bezels on the monitor, put them on the front so it's just easier to find them right away. And you can put more of them on the front. Number 7 was rig your camera out tastefully. There's tons of like Instagram pages about like terrible Blackmagic rigs, and most of them have to do with like the pocket cinema cameras, just because the form factor was like a little awkward to build out with like the screen and all this stuff. So this is a much easier camera to rig out, and I wanted to try to get like a nice minimal rig, and I wanted to get a V-mount plate that I didn't have to have rods on the back of my camera. I started down the rabbit hole of my FX6, and I landed on the wooden camera battery slide because I didn't have to have rods, and I found myself picking that camera up more because it was like a smaller, lower profile. It's just like easier to use overall. So I wanted to translate that to the Pyxis if possible. I found myself liking the Tilta kit just because I can use a top plate and put the V-mount plate and it locks into place with the top plate. It does take up the battery slot, and I can't have an internal battery, which I'm a big fan of doing, so I'm not like super excited about that, but all things considered, especially for the price, this is a pretty good starting point. I have a lot of more opinions about this that I'm trying to like save until my Pyxis 12K gets here, but I love that I can just like put a NATO rail on the front, a NATO handle, and then the Pyxis monitor with a V-mount on the back. When Blackmagic says this is the most riggable cinema camera, like I feel like they're not lying with that. Number 8 is more of a tip for me to remember, but I always forget once I'm done shooting with this camera, or a Red specifically, that I can update my settings in post. Like I don't have to just go to the color tab and start, dragging exposure sliders around if I want like to increase or decrease the exposure. I can go into the camera raw on this camera and actually adjust the ISO after the fact when I shoot it. I know that sounds completely silly to most people, but I have such ingrained habits of like, Shift 6, go into the color tab, drag my nodes on and just start color grading from there. I should start going into the camera raw and adjusting the raw data that I'm using exponentially more data to capture than my other Sony cameras. Again, this is completely silly for most people, but it's something that I need to remember, like adjust the camera raw stuff first and then start color grading or, adjusting exposure or anything like that. Number 9 is use the Blackmagic camera control app. I absolutely love that most camera manufacturers these days let you control your camera from an iPad. It makes life so much easier when you have a small team or you're filming YouTube videos. I would be using that with my Sony camera right now, but I'm using this for notes. So now I have a little, if I want to monitor something remotely with a normal camera, I have to like get a wireless transmitter out, put a V-mount battery on that, get this out, put the V-mount out. Like it's a really robust solution, but if I'm in the same room, maybe I don't need a super heavy duty transmitter. If I will be walking around the house and I have like a team and I might be like remotely monitoring a feed from like across a studio or a house or something, of course, like nothing beats a dedicated transmission. But when it comes to small productions, like these apps are completely awesome. I did make an entire video going over my Sony monitor and control app, all the settings and all the stuff that I had to like do to get it up and running. So if you would like that, let me know and I will make that video for a Blackmagic camera. There's a little bit of setup that goes into it, but once you get everything up and running, it's a lot easier to get up and running like the next times after. So it's just that upfront setup. Number 10, and this applies to all cameras, not just the Pyxis. I wrote down, buy this camera for the features it has now, not for future features. I was thinking about autofocus when this was announced earlier. And as a Sony shooter, I've really kind of leaned on autofocus for smaller jobs. Like just throw a G Master lens on a Sony body. And as long as, someone's face is in the frame or like you touch track and you have, enough light, that autofocus really is pretty sticky once you get your settings dialed in. I'm not sure I would trust the Blackmagic autofocus to be as reliable, like on a paid job, as the Sony autofocus, because the Sony autofocus is so good with those lenses. I think like once you control the camera body and the camera lens and they're talking together, you can really do a lot of great autofocus things. It's, I think of like Apple. Whenever you know, if I put do not disturb on right now, it puts do not disturb on my computer. It puts it on my phone in my pocket and my iPad here and all of my other devices. So if I put do not disturb on here, I'm not getting text message notifications or email notifications ruining the video. Like, I think Sony really nailed whenever you can have the camera and the lens together. It would be really awesome to see Blackmagic make some lenses, and then they can also maybe get on the same level as Sony with autofocus. I don't know if that'll ever happen, probably not, but it would be pretty cool to happen. So these are my top 10 tips for getting the best shots with the Pyxis 6K. This being my first Blackmagic camera, it was a pretty steep learning curve for me, and I had to do a lot of tests. And if you want to go back and watch more of those tests, there's more videos that I'll leave linked on screen now or in the description. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.